an interesting match number 1, but that's not the only one that we're looking forward to tonight. We have another stacked game ahead of us. Ollie, MIBR versus INTZ, 2 heavy-hitting teams. I think this one's going to be a contender for one of the closest matches of the evening.
This was one that I really struggled to call. I did some predictions earlier on Twitter, which isn't something that I usually do, but I fancied it for this Playday, and this was the one that I kind of labored over the most. I gave the edge to MIBR. I do believe that they will come away with the win here, but it isn't going to be an easy game for them. We've spoken already about Felipox, and obviously the shoulder injury that he's got and the surgery that he's going to have to go through or has already had. Unsure on sort of the timeline of it all, but the top and bottom of it means that Bodega is playing on the roster. Bodega, of course, the coach, and it has affected Team 1. We saw that demonstrated last week with their game against W7M, a game that went to all available rounds over on Oregon, and a game that they did lose. So by no means is this one clear-cut. Don't look at INTZ and Team MIBR and think this is going to be a walk in the park. It really isn't.
No, I don't think it will be. Gio, we had a bit of a surprise earlier. Ended up on Coastline for the last map. With the map vetoes coming up next, what are we thinking about this? Are we thinking we're going to see just a standard map where they can work with Bodega as a coach and be able to play a standard game? Or do you maybe expect seeing something coming a bit off guard, something we see a little bit less often?
I actually think that for MIBR, you want to be leaning into the standard maps pretty much for the exact reason that you stated just that. You know, Bodega, he's the coach. You don't want to go somewhere like Chalet or Coastline where you're going to have to get really gunfight heavy and aggressive. I think that they have a much better chance if they do go to one of these more standard maps. The question is, are INTZ going to let them go there? So just seeing how they all come through. Villa, Chalet, Clubhouse, Consulate, all gone. Oregon would be good. I was going to say Cafe maybe, but MIBR have banned that one out. So it leaves it between Coastline and INTZ don't want to go there. And I kind of don't really blame them. It's a harder map, I think, for a team like INTZ who have also been at the bottom of the leaderboard for a long time now. It's also in their favor to go somewhere that's a bit more standard. So Oregon, pretty much the most standard that you can get these days, especially here in Brazil. That's going to be where we go.
We will find out how things unfold soon enough. But before we do, let's learn a little bit more about the two teams.
This match is special for MIBR. Last season, against INTZ, Lukin and Bodega had just returned to the team and were able to celebrate the victory together with a 7-4 scoreline, and dominance reinforced for the rest of the stage.
Vai ter que recuar e acaba sendo finalizado!
Esse jogo foi muito bacana pra gente. Lembro que a gente comemorou bastante esse jogo aí, porque foi o primeiro jogo meu e do Luquinhos na volta. A gente tinha pego o Covid, a gente se recuperou e foi muito especial pra gente.
O confronto contra o MIBR foi um jogo meio troll da nossa parte, que a gente tomou, acho que, um clutch, a gente teve vários rounds entregues por comunicação nossa, que a gente podia não ter trollado, e erros básicos assim que custaram alguns rounds e levaram a partida.
If in the opening stage, this match was a symbol of hope for the return of 2 of its members, today's will be marked by pressure for results, since MIBR needs this win for placement in the second stage of BR6. 4 games have been played so far, but only 1 point has been achieved. To put it into perspective, if we take into consideration only the results of the second stage, INTZ played 1 match less and yet managed to gain 2 points. Is this a golden chance for INTZ, or will MIBR bite back?
Contra a INTZ é sempre a mesma coisa, né? Nunca perdeu pra eles, é complicado. Poderia fazer alguma coisa, mas não tem nada pra falar. Faz 2 anos já que eu jogo com eles aqui, nunca perdi pra INTZ, então.
O jogo contra a MIBR é como eu venho dito, é um time muito grande, é o terceiro melhor time do mundo. Não vai ser um jogo fácil, a gente sabe que não tem jogo fácil, mas como eu sempre digo, o jogo é jogado, então a gente só vai entrar com a cabeça erguida e é isso.
The third best team in the world shows no guilt or blame for Felipox's injury, but was his involvement necessary to perform? INTZ will show them no mercy regardless. Time to find out who deserves these points the most, with MIBR versus INTZ.
look, I love to, you know, do that breakdown of the game and everything, but let's just get right into it. Gio, Ollie, as per usual, game's underway. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Chunks. We are in the banning phase now. INTZ versus MIBR. The map is Oregon. And the bans so far are Hibana and Thatcher. Relatively standard stuff coming out here. Nothing too unusual. Flores available for the first time tonight. I'm sure he will see some rounds played here.
Better.
Need better, otherwise we're going to send Gio after you.
I don't know if that's much of a threat. What am I going to do?
I don't know. You maybe make a video on it? I'm not sure.
I'll vlog it.
Vlog it.
I'll put it on TikTok. I don't really use TikTok, but I'll pretend to be a Zoomer and I'll be like, you're being cancelled on TikTok. Is that what Zoomers do?
Oh dear. Well, Cade and Wamai, the final two. So, nothing too unusual about the banning phase here. All fairly standard stuff. The Cade and the Thatcher sort of nullifying one another. The Hibana removed as well for the pressure on hatches, so it does mean that Maverick and either Thermite or Ace are going to see a little bit of playtime as well, which again isn't too unusual. Hibana's value really comes at being able to open those walls from afar and to put pressure on things like Attic and things like the games room wall. So,
did you say Attic, Ollie? Is that a place that exists in Brazilian Oregon these days?
It's been found. It's been discovered.
Oh my god!
It's like the new world, the new
Amazing.
lands.
Unprecedented.
We'll probably see it at some point. Like, prepare for excitement because at some point we will see it. Not in this round though, or at least very unlikely.
Well, I mean, maybe. Depends what INTZ are going for. If they want to do an Attic push on a laundry attack, you know what? Go for it.
Well, something they've not brought yet is the Flores, which you would expect teams and players to try and bring, especially when you look and see how many shields being brought from MIBR. Now, Flores has seen a lot of play on Oregon and mainly downstairs, although you can play him upstairs as well. You can play him basically anywhere you like, but the shields and particularly dealing with elbow is an area that Flores really does shine.
Well, they're going to have to deal with this roam that's upstairs. Lukid getting caught out in the E1D, actually. He runs away. You know what? That could really work to their advantage, too, because it's basically going to say to INTZ, hey, you're going to have to spend a ton of time trying to clear out this first floor, and by the time you get there, they're probably all going to be downstairs. So, a nice little bait there, using their own utility against them.
It's something that really sort of hampers the teams that take a lot of time and do struggle with that roam game, and you really see the difference in teams that have that sort of confident hot drone and move ability, and then other teams that feel the need to sort of re-drone things multiple times and get a little bit caught up. But currently 3 drones there at Zach's feet. I know that he's a good fragger, but they're certainly investing a lot in trying to keep him up there as he thinks about maybe pushing it down those rear stairs. Still, there's 2 drones stacked up there that have just sort of been left, and you just kind of worry. It's a really small thing, but you just worry about where these drones are actually being placed and what information is being gained here.
They're all over here. Yeah, you would hope that they're being placed in, you know, flank watch positions, right? You know, if you're not leading in the entry, at least put them in places that you can refer to later and try and gather some information on the whereabouts, because that's 4 drones. Hey, that was a good example of a flank watch drone. This one being straight to say, I don't think that one's going to last very long, if I'm honest.
It may not, but it may gather a little bit of intel, tell them about the mirror window. Give Capital somewhere to fire on his utility. Now, Bodega, he has been pinched. The mirror window behind him has been hit. The first kill comes in for Raps. He shuts down Zach. Bodega, a bit of a tough situation, eventually does give himself away there as he feels the pressure coming in. VNX and Drunks now, they have to find a good couple of frags between them. Drunks finds 2, still leaves VNX 1 versus 2. Pre-fires the corner. There's a bit of a last-ditch attempt, maybe off a sound call, as you would hear the sound of Raps there just dropping off, but Still not enough. MIBR, they come away with round number 1.
You know what could have been useful there is if there had been a drone.
And you know who brings a lot of drones?
Who brings a lot of drones?
Flores. It's crazy.
Oh, would have loved to have seen it, but alas, no. I mean, no, I don't even think that was even a terrible attack from INTZ. It was very, I mean, they spent a lot of time working over towards tower for it to end up being a laundry push, but they were lacking on information towards the end. And as a number of those players got gunned down from the attacking side, leaving VNX on his own, cool, you've smoked off the mirror window, so you've denied a line of sight, but in return, you don't have a line of sight. And that is ultimately a good thing. If you're in a 1 versus X situation, you can cut off a number of those vision points, then it means that you can kind of deal with each of those players one at a time. But you don't have drones, you don't have information to go by, so you really are just flying blind at that point. And so it's unsurprising that VNX finally met his demise towards the end of the round. This time they will be attacking on the upstairs. This is where we want to be looking out for the attic pushes, and they've brought 2 hard breaches, neither of whom, though, are a Maverick, who is quite commonly brought to deal with the attic push. Now, it's an interesting one, because which are you going to use for which? You don't necessarily need to have a long-range hard breach to open up the games room wall, but I would assume that if you are bringing a long range and a short range, you would use the long range for that, because it seems even more, like, obsolete to take it for the attic wall.
I guess another main reason to bring Maverick for the attic wall is the fact that you bring a couple of grenades as well. So you can not only open the wall, but you can start to, well, for a start, you can open it very safely. You can just open a nade hole in the top. Secondly, you can then look to try and burn some utility, either with your Zofia or somebody else with stuns, that can then look to try and root the player and move the utility from the bottom side of attic, and then the nade comes in to try and confirm the kill or to force a player into a crossfire. So you do just miss out on that. Now, we have seen the Selmas be used to open up this attic wall. The drone now going to go on through, but there is a shield to deal with. Now, how are you going to deal with that shield? You're going to have to get Hornetow up here. VNX is going to try and burn out the ADS. He's just waiting for Hornetow, because obviously doesn't want to let the ADS refresh. The ADS will eventually be burned. The nade comes through, and likely the shield will be gone.
See, I suppose when you bring the ace there, because you can choose to end the Selmas, you can still get that sort of high-level, like, nade hole, I suppose, which a Maverick usually just opens with the blowtorch above him. So it means that you can throw projectiles in without revealing yourself and putting yourself in a space of danger. But, you know, as you said, lacking the nades, you can throw in the flashes, but that's about it. Now, INTZ trying to pinch down into this one player on MIBR who's over in Trophy. I think it's Reduct. Was it the Valkyrie? I think it is. They haven't been able to get rid of her, and she's gonna, fire out the drone as she still sits comfortably in games.
Now I think we're seeing the games wall actually be open there, as we can hear the exothermic going off. So INTZ ticks a lot of boxes so far. They've got the attic open, they have the games room wall open, but they've not really dealt with any of these roamers. We've still got Bodega below. He has the C4 in pocket. And you know that with the Valkyrie cameras, there's going to be some sort of information. Not only that, there's a bulletproof as well. Toxic Babe canisters from Fowls, timed to perfection. Still has 2 in pocket. 20 seconds left. He's going to be able to cut off that entrance for a long period of time. A smoke does go in deep from VNX as another Toxic Babe is tossed out toward Trophy. Vitz will find Bodega on the vertical. But still, 10 seconds, and VNX needs to try and get himself on in for a plant. Raps is being pressured as Hornetow's just aggressed all the way on through. Reduct, he has to go in now and try and take down the planter, but he too will be taken on out. Files is now left in a pretty impossible situation, as he's eventually going to get taken down. He finds one frag, but the plant was going down, and that was extending the clock. Files couldn't make it out of Kid's bedroom, and instead, INTZ, they come away with the round.
I still do want to point out, however, that Falls wasn't found out for quite a while. He got a kill that INTZ could have quite easily not allowed to happen because they didn't know he was in the corner. They knew that there was one person in Kids, so they sent the Buck down below to try and force him to move, and then Hornetown actually got the kill over from Pit, but yeah, like by that point, by the time that the plant was going down and they'd moved into dorms as well, Falls really was trapped. There was nothing that he could do on his own. But up until that point, I was like, oh no, please spot that he's there. And they lost a player for it. But, you know, the way that they cleared out from one side to the other and pushed against the players who were remaining in kids and dorms, good, it's effective, because it meant that even before they'd got those kills down, they could start going in with the plant, and there was very little that those remaining 2 players of MIBR could do, because it was well out of their scope. So MIBR are to be returning to this same site. Bit of a difference here from INTZ, though. Instead of bringing a Thermite, so no double hard breach there, they're going to be opting for the Capitão. And it's interesting because Thermite these days has smokes. It was one of the things that they did to try and buff him in conjunction with nerfing Ace by removing his. And, of course, Capitão also has smoke. So they're still going to have that available. They'll just be lacking the option for the main hard breach. Capitão does have a secondary hard breach gadget, which they are bringing. It just won't be able to fully open any wall. But I think for INTZ, the option to clear out a big area, they see as a much bigger priority than opening a wall necessarily.
I want to see how it plays out, because that last round from INTZ was pretty textbook. It wasn't quite perfect, but it was getting there. You know, there wasn't a lot really else that they could have done to pull that one away. And a lot of it hinged on the fact that the double hard breach was brought. Now, where the sort of hard breach gadget, where that tin opener gets used, is going to be very important here as to how the round does progress. Fowls has already taken a chunk of damage. Instead, we're going to see a Selma actually placed below, and in an attempt, I imagine, to deal with a mute jammer or on the actual wall of the attic, but still, that's, again, quite a bit of utility used. Now, it's a very safe way of doing that. Instead, you could have taken control of meeting and just shot it out anyway and not used the Selma there. So, again, choice use of those Selmas, especially when they are so limited. But VNX going to be starting things off with a frag over onto Bodega. Bodega again trying to play that roamer downstairs and getting picked off.
Redux very close to coming into contact with one of these INTZ players in the showers corridor. Now, I was going to say I think INTZ probably feel comfortable that they have most control of the first floor, but with Redux heading down the white stairs, it kind of removes that. And Hornetown receiving the pings, he knows that someone is round here. Redux does have a lot of damage taken as he heads back upstairs. There's actually, yeah, I was going to say a few members here on MIBR who have low health. Rap's falling as well, and INTZ are an entire squad still. I don't see how INTZ aren't going to overwhelm MIBR, especially if they are all off the site.
Well, Redux and Lucid have brought things back to an equal 3 versus 3, but only briefly. Zach is going to finish off Lucid. Redux holding on to the top of white stairs. Fouls. Low health as well, trying to cling on inside of dormitories. He's instead going to be looking at holding on to that main window. There's going to be an engagement there as Redux, he gets shut down by Vitz. Fouls now in the 1 versus 3. Finds himself 1. The fuse is still in the hands of VNX. He can't grab the second though. Zach is going to be able to shut him down. INTZ, another successful attack onto this top floor site. And the best thing, it wasn't really too similar to the previous time. They're showing they've got a bit of depth here, Gio.
I know! I love it! I love it. It's really nice to see. And even though they didn't have as many defenders, or sorry, attackers still alive at the end as they did on the previous round, they still succeeded. And I think, you know, when you've got something like MIBR's strategy of sending more people downstairs and trying to really disrupt what's going on the first floor before INTZ have an opportunity to fully focus on the top floor, you know, you're bound to have this kind of war of attrition. Holly.
Happening?
There's a Flurry.
Wild Flores?
A wild Flores. I can see him. Ooh. I I like this, because especially when you consider that INTZ didn't win their attack onto this site back in round 1. They actually tried to push in very quickly, use smokes to obstruct the lines of sight that were available to MIBR, but it kind of came to bite them too. You know, Flores, you could use them to open up the mirror windows as well, which is something that MIBR lent into back on round number 1 too. So remove all of that from MIBR, great. When you've got 4 drones, you've got a couple of tries to get it right.
We do usually see it taking a few tries as well. They're not always the easiest drones to get into position. And not one of the criticisms, but one of the downsides, and there really isn't too many, is that it does just take you out of the fight. And you can get wrapped up in the drones for a good portion of the round, but we'll see how Drunks chooses to deploy them. The mirror windows were very important last time for MIBR in terms of gathering that information. But the INTZ attack was equally as impressive, as they were also able to not only push in from Freezer, but they also pushed in from Laundry at the same time. There wasn't too much going on inside of Elbow. Vitz, ooh, almost finds the freebie, but Raps hits the 180 and the headshot. Gets himself back to sight and counts his lucky stars, I think.
MIBR standing strong. You know, it's a 5 versus 4. It's not exactly hyper-pressurized at this point. Bodega puts his next mirror window up. Now, he didn't actually get a kill with the C4 in round number 1. I would like to see him do it, because he became kind of the king of the C4s and the projectiles last week when he was playing. So we need to see a bit of that. Of course, the freezer hatch has been open. The laundry hatch is still closed. And when you are just bringing a thermite, you pretty much just have to pick 2. So Bodega can actually sit comfortably underneath that hatch as he set himself up there before.
We will see the Flores drone go off. Zach is looking to pressure as well on these rear stairs. Another Flores drone going to be searching out for utility, or of course trying to shift a player from point A to point B. It's his 3rd drone that's gone down the hatch there for Drunks. That one instead going a little bit further in towards supply. Hornet out with the drop. Finds himself a frag. Instantly traded there by Redux. Zach pushes down the stairs as well, but that again will go down in a 1-for-1 trade. The advantage here is going to be in the hands of MIBR. Another Flores drone being used. It's going to open up the soft wall at the bottom of those rear stage stairs. VNX. Got a line of sight on in, but nothing all too much to go off at the moment. Drunks, one of the problems with the Flores drones, it does take you out of the fight, and now he has to try and move and get himself into a favorable position with not a lot of time left remaining. VNX is going to look to push through, but again, starved for information, doesn't really know where to expect to push from, goes for a cross, and instead is caught out. Multiple players on the side of MIBR watching onto that one. Drunks, he's on the bomb chassis, but not for long. Fouls picks up those final 2. MIBR remain unbeaten downstairs in the laundry.
I could kind of see what INTZ were going for there. They made a big song and dance over by laundry and then tried to open up into supply kind of stealthily, but there were still defenders who were present in there. Crossfire could very easily be set up, and with just 16 seconds remaining, I don't know if that was like the plan all along or if that was just a contingency plan that they tried to hop onto right at the end. But regardless, I think they had suffered too much of a casualty earlier on in the round for that to ever really work. Unless the supply site was completely empty, maybe they would have been able to get a plant down. But not really any point in that endeavor did I think, yeah, this is going to work for INTZ. But, I mean, MIBR, this is the thing that confuses me. Why are you going back to Kid Storms? Go to one of the kitchen sites. To me, that screams that there is a huge weakness here. Because if you have to return to a site that you have been bested on twice in a row because you don't feel comfortable going to any tertiary site, what are you telegraphing to your opponents and to everybody else in the competition?
maybe there's something that MIBR feel as though they can do differently here. They've lost it twice, lost it to 2 different approaches. This time we're seeing the first iteration of those approaches from INTZ. This is the same lineup that they brought in round number 2 previously. We get the double hard breach, we get the ace and the thermite. They look to pressure from Attic and from Games Room. So there's obviously something that MIBR feel as though they can do differently. This time, Bodega is going to be on the Maestro. He's played the Goyo, and he's also played the Alibi so far. Now we see him on that more of an anchor position. It's something that we've sort of been crying out for a little bit, Gio, as he does tend to perform a little bit better when you put him on that anchor position. And of course, you've got the utility as well from those Maestro cameras, so you're going to be able to have those regardless. We'll see how INTZ choose to approach. You do wonder if their confidence is going to get to a point where they're just happy to take these engagements. Vitz, he's itching to get himself on in. You've burnt the ADS, you've done the hard bit. Now you've got to go for the swing, but the nade's going to come on in. Great teamwork again there from INTZ. Taking down Reduct.
I mean, they've put a really big effort into clearing out Trophy early for a few times here, and MIBR at no point have placed anything such as a shield in there to make it harder. I mean, oftentimes if you're going to have such heavy Trophy presence from the defenders, it would either be protected better, or they would typically be on the other side of the doorway just into dorms by the attic door and then have ADS and a shield there. So it's not like super hard for INTZ to be able to flush that area out. And we saw back in round number 2 how well they took control of the entirety of the map simply by coming in through, Games Armory side and attic. They clear out Trophy and then they shift along like a storm.
Lucan is trying to pressure onto that attic, but actually remained intact this round. There is going to be a player directly above him, the hatch open as well. Luca does have a C4, so he might be able to make something happen here. Gonna have to play his life. I have no idea how he spots that drone out. We have the blue outline, and even then it's like, is there really a drone there? But he is able to search that one out. It's unlikely that it's being watched at the moment with full 5 players left alive on the side of INTZ. He is likely going to be safe there. Raps with a swing, but he is going to be taken out. Vitz finding himself yet another kill. Bodega has a shield to play with. How long is it going to stay alive for? Well, the answer, not very long. The ADSs do get burnt. The shield is lost. 20 seconds do remain. Fowls picks up a very important kill there, shutting down Vitz. Does have Toxic Babe canisters remaining. The big window now something to start watching as well. Fowls is going to be laid prone before being swung there by Hornetal. The plant is going down. Bodega, can he find one? No, eventually will be taken on out. Lukid from below did take down the planter for a time, but it has been recovered and it is being replanted by Zach. He's got to make his way up white stairs, but everybody knows where he's going to be coming from. 1 versus 3, post plant here. Needs to push on up. A crossfire has already been established. Player inside of games, player toward big window, player inside of kids. It was going to be any one of them to find that final kill. INTZ again successful up here in dorms.
I'm amazed the Bodega didn't get the kill onto, who was it, Drunks, who jumped in through big window. I thought that was going to be like easy straight on him, but whatever. And I think, Fall's playing in the exact same position that he has done for the last few times that MIBR have been there meant that Hornetal could very easily get that kill, because not only did Falls just kill one of his teammates and the information would have been passed on, but he knows where he's been the last few rounds. So it was an easy punish from him. Now, finally, we're seeing meeting be go to Salon de Reunions. Right. That was probably...
Sounds like meeting to me.
Sounds like meeting. I've finally been able to tell the difference, because dining is like Jantar or something. Janitar. So, there you go. Anyway, so MIBR have finally decided to come to a tertiary site. And if they win this, it's going to be really frustrating, because it's just a couple of rounds too late. This is their last chance on the defense to actually put something up here against INTZ. They really stubbornly decided to continue going back to the site that they were being the most dominated on by their opponents and didn't do anything different each time. I mean, they changed their operators a couple of times, but the actual fundamental way that the defense was being done didn't change much.
Let's see if they can find a bit of success here for the final round on defense. Chance to salvage a 3-3 split here for MIBR. Things don't get much easier after that, though, because then they've got to go on to the attack. So, still a bit of an uphill battle. INTZ have come in pretty strong today, and it's been, again, very nice to see. Zach, obviously, joining this squad and things seemingly moving a little bit smoother for INTZ since the start of stage 2. They're certainly moving with a little bit more confidence, and it's resulting in rounds as well. So early aggression being shown. As half of that wall has been left soft there. It gives something Lukid, something to peek from, along with Reduct. The drones start to come in. You do just worry that if this opening engagement doesn't go too well, it's going to spell disaster almost for the side of MIBR.
Ooh, Lukid knows that there is at least one person just outside of games. Didn't quite get the kill, but it was a very fast, brief pixel. Again, he's just narrowly seeing the pixels. Can feel the gunfire. Reduct especially can. Zach opening things up. It's just Lukid on his own up here. And there are so many bodies of INTZ to go up against him.
I guess the only plus at the minute is that he's wasting a lot of time. But you've still lost Reduct.
I mean, these players of INTZ have now moved downstairs, but the other thing there was that he would have been caught in the line of sight if he'd decided to go back to the hatch. But look, more kills coming in for MIBR. They've evened it up at a 3 versus 3, but VNX is going to go in for the plant regardless.
Meeting entirely surrendered, as is Kitchen. The site free for the taking, and players getting picked off on the rotation. This is not looking great for MIBR. Lukid in the impossible position. Going to be in main lobby at the moment. Goes, moves and through into split, but
Oh, no.
VNX is crouched down just outside of the smoke, where Siege turns into a jump scare as players appear from the smoke as if out of nowhere. It was always going to be a tough round there for MIBR with the way that they were trying to hold that top floor.
I feel really bad for Lukid there because I feel like to a lot of people, they're going to see that and they're going to be like, what the hell is he doing? But I suspect that's one of those situations where, you know, he was walking blindly into the smoke. He knows there's people nearby. He's got his sights set on Kitchen. As soon as he comes out of the smoke, he can see out of his peripheral vision that there is someone crouched there. And it's like he's already in his head decided he's going to be shooting towards Kitchen. And you know when you've just got to react to so many different stimuli in one go and you just, you know, you get something like that at the end. So I think it looked worse than it was. It wasn't Lukid's fault alone that he was in that position. But I do think that MIBR's decision to have such a strong upstairs presence didn't work how they wanted it to, as you said, and that was a contributor to that fact. Because by the time that INTZ went in for the plant, there wasn't really anything going against them. Like, there was no resistance there. And, like, Drunks was over in Kitchen. He wasn't even by the plant itself, but he knew that there would be a rotate in through there. Got a kill really early. So, you know, MIBR just having no presence on or near the site made it very open for INTZ.
It didn't really matter where the site was, in all honesty, for that last round, with the way that it went down. So time for a switch up here. 4-2 split on the attack for INTZ is very commendable. They've given themselves a relatively easy job here. All they need is an equal 3-3 and they're going to come away with the win. But MIBR now switching things up. Time to hit that reset and see if they can salvage anything inside of this round. Now, we often talk about how it's kind of easier to play with not your full lineup on defense, but MIBR haven't been terrible on the attacks, especially with Bodega playing the hard support. It frees up everybody on the side of the team to, you know, be a little bit more flexible. And we'll see if they're able to get the job done here and start to change their fortunes here on Oregon, because another couple of rounds and this one's going to very quickly run away from them.
Meeting hatch being open, 2 hard breach have been brought, so all of the hatches are going to get opened. Something that INTZ decided against on their last attack down into laundry. The Renegade does destroy one of the drones. They've got to figure out how it is they're going to deal with this utility down here as they consolidate or consider maybe a meeting hatch drop.
No, really?
I would not be a happy Geo if they did it, but they're the ones in the server.
I think you're prepared to not be a happy Geo as we see 1 and 2 players jumping on down. Reduct finds himself 1. Zach instantly takes down Rap, but Pillar was in control for a time. That is until Reduct got himself down. We've still got Fouls laid prone with an angle over into Freezer. No nades left, so we can't do anything to root the player out. They're going to hit the revive onto Reduct. Lukid looking to pressure in on the elbow potentially. Is a shield to contend with, but he does have the launcher and he's going to be able to remove said Goyo shield. Still, it's going to provide a fiery mess to stop you from challenging on in. Now, the wall hasn't been reinforced. Probably a little bit too late to use that pocket reinforcement, especially with the pressure that's coming on in. And why would you when you can get kills through it? Hornetow shuts down Lukid. Laid prone, ready to find himself a second. And he will! The edge up goes off, but it's too little too late. Another player looking to peek on round. Bodega finally shutting Hornetow down. Fouls gets himself into an engagement with the player inside of Freezer. Well, Bodega, he didn't have a lot going for him there. 1 versus 3 eventually pushes through into the site, but he's too shut down.
Okay, so I concede the meeting hatch drop itself actually wasn't a failure.
It was good.
But part of what happened was INTZ decided to pull back much of their defense, and they were passive in the situation, which put them in better positions for when MIBR actually pushed further through the site. So as those kills started coming in from INTZ towards the end, it was because they had chosen not to directly challenge the meeting hatch drop. So while the meeting hatch drop itself wasn't much of a problem, and it wasn't as egregious as we've seen in this region, especially last stage, it was like the knock-on effect. The final domino of the meeting hatch drop was MIBR losing the round.
Right, Gio, I love how much you hate that hatch drop.
I hate it
because even
much.
Even when it works, it still didn't work.
But it didn't work because INTZ decided not to get aggressive onto it. They pulled back, set up. Hornetow's still playing an elbow. MIBR can't deal with it. Then they have to try and push in because they want to get a plant. And guess what? All of the defenders are further in the site because they didn't challenge your meeting hatch drop.
The meeting hatch drop was successful. The reason that round was lost
Oh, really?
was because
Why are MIBR still on 2 rounds then, Ollie?
because they didn't deal with Hornetow because they didn't bring the Flores.
Oh, so it's actually Flores.
Yeah,
That's
we can circle this
problem.
one back. We can circle this one back to that
we
shield
just
getting dealt with.
Simplify it down to every. We are so reductive here on the LATAM broadcast.
It's all it is. It's as simple as that. It was a tough round to watch, wasn't it? You know, you talk about that elbow position and you brought it up there. You made a good point about Hornetow. He was a big part there in winning that round. He was able to get himself a couple of kills. It took him a long time to be shut down, and even at that point, it's too late to really do anything now. MIBR, they need to start finding some wins here somewhere. I'm going to be attacking upstairs. Kids' dormitories. A couple of hard breaches being brought, which is always nice, and I guess more importantly, they've brought the Maverick. Fouls regularly plays on the Maverick now, so they're going to have a couple of those grenades to go with. But we've still seen quite a light grenade day from these two teams. There's neither team that's really brought more than one set of nades, and usually you think about how many nades are brought now, and you know, with the Ana Sledge, there's just so many options.
So many options, man. We are spoiled for choice here in Rainbow Six Siege. Well, no Yana and no Sledge. So, there's options not to be taken. Got a hold here from INTZ. They are very much holding these vertical angles, and it's no surprise why. I mean, Hornetown, he can sense, he can smell the fear, the sweat, and the adrenaline of MIBR down below. Haven't yet put much of a push at all onto the top floor, and we're already over halfway through this round.
It is one of those rounds that is in danger of sort of petering out a little bit, especially with the sort of lack of progress that we're seeing here. It's going to almost panic throw a C4 there as he feels like he's being pushed, but he's just given Raps the indicator that he needed. The lifeline hadn't actually gone off there for Raps. The swing, though, is going to be successful. Take a seat, Raps. You just got swung by the shotgun. Vitz able to shut him down. Advantage here, INTZ. Fouls. Could look to pressure through the big window, but realistically, so many angles to try and check as he moves on through. Zach does give himself away, though. Going to give something back to the side of MIBR, but with Lukin at the top of these white stairs, it's never an angle that is easy to make entry on through, especially without smoke or any sort of distraction. All the players nearly stacking up there. Lukin does find himself down. As Drunks is going to be looking to push through as well, but the shotgun from below going to finish off the two players on white stairs. Fouls not quite padding his stats at the moment, but that's really the way that this round is going to go. 8 seconds left. Still has a nade in pocket, but he's 1 versus 3. Finds one with the pistol. It looks great, but Vitz, the star of the show, comes in and shuts down the final player. Ran in 4 inside of that round.
I feel like this is the time in the stage where no longer is the situation with MIBR speculative, and it's not a joke either. Like, this is serious. It's serious. They're about to lose 7-2 to INTZ, which is not no disrespect to INTZ. INTZ have certainly had their good plays, but it's more that MIBR shouldn't really be losing to many teams at all. And yeah, obviously, like, there is a very serious situation going on with MIBR right now, and it's not their fault either. And we have to be very careful how we present this, because it's not like something has suddenly fallen apart within the team. It is a temporary situation, but it is having very real effects for where they stand right now. And if they fall into the bottom 4 of the leaderboard, that's going to be very hard for them to climb out of. You know, one of the things with the cumulative leaderboard is that finishing in the top 6 in stage 1 gives you a huge advantage going forward, and it takes a lot of effort to fall out of that. And MIBR are potentially about to. If not today, tomorrow, next week, whenever it may be, because they are very much struggling. I mean, in that last round, the decision to not even have the attack come in from the upstairs, I didn't see them working on walls, you know? They were coming in from down below and never really reached anywhere close to an actual execute upstairs. I mean, Falls at the very end trying to push through big window, but the rest of his team are dead. There's not anything he can do on his own, so I don't really count that as a legitimate execute. It is worrying.
The last time we saw these two play in stage 1, it wasn't Oregon. It was a 7-4 MIBR. So even then, not a clean-cut game. But you get the impression that that was one of those typical games where INTZ won a couple of rounds on the defense and were able to get the advantage, then struggled on the attack. Well, that isn't what we saw tonight. We saw INTZ do very well on the attack, and they've continued that since they got onto the defense. And it's all sort of ultimated in a match point against MIBR, which really isn't where we thought we were going to be. I still thought this was going to be a very competitive and closely fought game, despite knowing everything about the sort of Felipox Bodega situation, you know, having full knowledge of that and knowing that Bodega's playing. I still thought this was going to be a close one, but INTZ have come over and taken that momentum. They're in a dangerous spot at the minute of being able to close this one out, and, you know, we talk about what that means for teams at the top. It means a lot for teams at the bottom as well. We saw the Toxic Babe ding off Bodega's head there. He went for an alternate line and got himself taken out. The diffuser has been recovered as another Toxic Babe coming on in. These are very aggressive from INTZ, and they're going to leave themselves with little denial. There isn't any C4s available. One Toxic Babe canister left. MIBR now just going to bide their time. They've recognized that there's a lot of time remaining. And they can look to further pinch and pressure and see if they can just catch any of these defenders out.
A lot of damage down to Hornetown, but Luca did receive some in return. Doesn't want to get too overzealous. They still haven't actually cleared out showers, so that's the next job on the docket. But, you know, okay, Vits peek out from the shield, sure, because they didn't really have much that they could have dealt with that, and that means Shower's corridor control has been taken, and with that kill from Falls, Shower's control as well. So the momentum's looking a bit better here for MIBR, but it's a 2 versus 2. They don't have a man advantage. They still have to actually make it onto the site.
Luca knows that there's going to be a player inside of security. We can see Zach sitting at the top of White Stairs as well. Valves is just cautiously moving on through. Maybe semi-starved for information here. Fowls baiting out the plant there, looking to pre-fire onto Hornetown. Hornetown is going to go for the swing. He doesn't have the shotgun, interesting. He has the FMG, but instead he will be taken on down. Fowls steps in a big way inside of this round. Zach now, it's do or die. Finds a frag. Luke, no! He hits the TK. Players stacking up on the side of MIBR. Zach coming in for the final kill on INTZ, and MIBR did the rest. INTZ, they're going to take Oregon here against MIBR.
Yeah, Zach actually did a really good job in this game. You know, not even top fragger. That's actually going to go to Falls. 10 and 4, though. Pretty good there for the KD. And, you know, remember, he is the new player, and we were looking to see if his introduction into the squad was going to have much of a difference for INTZ. And they seem to be finding their footing earlier in this stage than they did back in stage number 1. And it's really nice to see. Like, a lot of what they did today looked clean. They certainly had to fight for their victories on certain rounds, but with a scoreline like 7 and 2, you absolutely can't argue that INTZ were anything but dominant over MIBR.
And they deserve the win today. They really did. You know, INTZ did a great job there of picking up the rounds that mattered, particularly having a good start on the attack. And I think that's the thing that surprised me the most. Let's bring Chunks back into here, and we can have a discussion about that game all together, as it maybe didn't go as expected.
No, I don't think it did. But Ollie, I have a theory here, all right? I think if MIBR drop meeting hatch every single round, they win the game. What do you think?
You can see, look at Gio's face.
They didn't even win the round where they did drop meeting hatch.
Like the inhale of breath as that was going, I was just like, I'm going to try and keep it.
Yeah, we need a Brazil build of this map that doesn't have a hatch over E-Box.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? You got to give it to INTZ right there. They did amazing that game. I think that was one of those situations where it's the small mistakes that make a difference. MIBR, they were trying to find an opening, but it just didn't work out for them. And it's unfortunate, but they saw that there was an opportunity to move in. You can't blame them too much for that, but it is rough when you have all your players going through the same location. I think a big thing, though, we have to talk about INTZ and just how well they did to be able to have not the best first half, but when it came to swapping things around on defense, Gio, they were just able to clean up.
Yeah, I mean, their defense was pretty good. They didn't obviously have tons of rounds on the defense. they didn't need it, but you know, I think there were certain rounds. I mean, especially like round number 8, right? Like, MIBR's attack was all beneath the site. They didn't really have any pressure going on to the upstairs at all. So, like, the fact that most of INTZ's defense was upstairs, we're never going to know how good that defense really could have been, because MIBR didn't even try to attack in a way that was putting sufficient pressure onto them. So there were kind of moments like that where it was like, well, this could have been different, and we won't know.
We won't know, unfortunately, but I'll tell you, man, who will know. The person who probably can analyze the game a lot better than any of us can. It is the analyst from INTZ. It's going to be Hellraiser here for an interview after an amazing performance, honestly, from Team INTZ there. So, Hellraiser, how you feeling after that one?
Play against them. So that's it. I'm feeling great.
Yeah, I mean, I would be as well. You guys had a really strong performance, but I gotta say, it didn't all start off looking like that. On the first half, when MIBR were defending basement, they were doing it really well, but they switched things up. They decided not to hold it. Do you think that worked to your advantage, or is it just a case that maybe basement is a bit of a weaker site when it comes to attacking for you guys?
We know that bomb will be hard against them because that's the best bomb of them after Bodega comes to the team. So we know that bomb will be hard.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to ask also about the first half. So you guys had a really thorough attack onto the kids' dorm site, and actually each round that you attacked onto it, you went for a slightly different strategy. So you proved that you're very versatile in attacking onto there. It really seemed to me like a lot of the weakness from MIBR on their defense came from how easy it was for you guys to clear out Trophy, for example, and take control of the kind of east side of the map and really push through the entire thing. Why do you think that MIBR decided to go back there 3 times when you guys look so good at attacking it?
I think the other bombs from them is not good bombs. So I think they have better confidence to play in kids. So that's because they take too much.
Hellraiser, something that I wanted to ask you is, were you expecting Oregon today? Was that a map that you were expecting to go to against MIBR?
Yes, we're expecting Oregon or no. Yeah, we're expecting Oregon or Clubhouse, but Clubhouse they've been on first ban, so we really expecting Oregon. We knew it, everything they will do.
I mean, look, you guys showed that you came into this prepared. You did really well and an amazing win. So thank you so much for joining us, Hellraiser. I'm sure you've got a lot to talk about ahead of your game tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, what an amazing interview there to be able to hear from not only a player, but also an analyst who can maybe break things down a little bit more in depth and maybe bring a fresh perspective, because we speak to players a lot. So it is nice to get another perspective in there every now and then. But that's it for game number 2. We still have 2 more remaining, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes.